School reform and achievement here in Michigan. News this week that the standardized test that your kids are probably taking right now could be gone next year. Yeah, the MSTEP, which was hastily created to replace the MeEP after lawmakers refused to fund another standardized test that was in the works for years. So after 2 years of MSTEP, it could be replaced with another assessment that would test kids 3 times a year instead of once, and starting in kindergarten. And if you're a parent of a school-age kid, you're saying, wait, what? You're going to change this again? Nolan, I'm going to let you have a first crack on that before I take a crack at it.
It's disastrous. And millions of dollars were spent putting this test in place. They revamped curriculums, and now you're going to do it again. I think it's unconscionable the state school board is even thinking about this, and it reflects sort of their allegiance and their to the teachers unions and their desire not to be held accountable. You wonder why Michigan can't do what other states are doing. No other state is changing its testing method 2 and 3 times in 5 years. I mean, you can't get ahead at that at that pace.
And you can say that the Michigan Department of Education and the school board, it's unconscionable, but people could also place a lot of blame, Stephen, on the legislature, who all of a sudden decided to pull funding from the test that had been vetted for years to replace the MeEP because of what they didn't like what the Department of Ed was doing.
You've got everybody sort of pulling at different strings here, trying to make a point, but they're all trying to make different ideological points. No one is saying, here, let's sit down as a group together and figure out what the curriculum ought to look like.
Well, we never can do that
in state schools. And then, you know, the test should follow the curriculum. The test should be devised after you have that discussion about how you want schools to look and what you want them to do. We never start there. We always start with let's get rid of this test and bring a new one in.
But the objective groups, people who aren't on one side or the other of the political debate and divide, say that MSTEP is a good test. The Michigan,
it's a decent test.
The Midwest Education Trust said, you know, this is a good test. Let's give it time to work. The worst thing you can do to teachers is say, okay, you've got to put all this effort into preparing you to teach this test and to devise your curriculum so your kids do well on this test, and then next year a whole nother
something different.
It is not fair at the classroom level.
It's not fair, and also that you'll have no really idea of where we are achievement-wise in the state if you keep saying, well, we have to wait a couple more years for this until we get a really good assessment, and then you're changing it all over again. My other thing with this, when I saw this, was they're going to be assessed 3 times a year instead of the MSTEP and the MeEP was once.
They'll be doing
and then they're also saying, well, but maybe you can opt out of one of them like mid-year. And I'm like, now wait a minute. It gets a little confusing.
It's just sort of, it's catch as catch can. There is no strategy. There's no sort of overall protocol that's being used here. It's everybody's just sort of grabbing at what here's an interesting idea. Why don't we try it like this, or why don't we do that?
Yeah, and I mean, you got a new superintendent. He doesn't like this test because he wasn't part of putting it together. So we're going to get a new, a new test. What about the next time we get a new superintendent? I mean, you can't change with every change of personnel.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. All right, and